There's a lot of these, each group writes planning memos. I'm not copied on most of them.
Are there planning memos from some of the groups that you recall receiving for fiscal year 1998?
I think there's a memo Steve wrote that was probably sent to me.
And by Steve, you're referring to Mr. Balmer?
Yes.
In the third paragraph of this memo on the first page, it says, quote, "Our competitors are still hard at work trying to obsolete Windows. More people than ever now believe they will. Netscape and Sun endeavor to commoditize the OS." Do you know what is meant by commoditize the OS in this context?
In the context of this memo,
Yes.
I'd need to read the memo.
Have you ever heard anybody say that Netscape or Sun threatened to commoditize the operating system?
Yes.
Have you ever said that?
Those words?
Yes.
I don't think so.
When other people have said those words, what have you understood them to mean?
I think the first time I heard that was from Mark Andreessen, and I never had a chance to ask him what he meant.
Have you heard those words from people within Microsoft?
Subsequently to Andreessen using those words, I know they were repeated inside the company quite a bit.
Did you understand that some people within Microsoft were saying that they believed that Netscape or Sun were threatening to commoditize the operating system?
I don't know of anybody using that terminology before Andreessen did. I don't think it was used before he used it.
My question is not whether it was used before or after Mr. Andreessen's statement. My question is whether people within Microsoft communicated with you that they believed that Netscape or Sun threatened to commoditize the operating system.
It says endeavor here. You're switching?
I was asking a question that was not necessarily tied to the document. My question is whether anyone within Microsoft told you that they believed that Netscape or Sun threatened to commoditize the operating system.
Those specific words?
Yes, the same words that we've been using in the last previous series of questions, Mr. Gates. Those words.
I think that most of the time when people use those words, they were repeating what Andreessen had said.
My question is not what they meant most of the time or what they were doing most of the time. My question is whether people within Microsoft ever communicated to you that they believed that Netscape or Sun were threatening to commoditize the operating system.
They certainly communicated to me that Netscape was communicating that they were on a path to, in Netscape's words, commoditize the operating system.
Have you finished your answer?
Yes?
Now my question is whether anyone within Microsoft ever communicated to you that they believed that either Netscape or Sun were threatening to commoditize the operating system.
I think after Andreessen said it, Some people suggested they agreed with Andreessen's sentiment that Netscape was trying to reduce Windows sales.
When people use the word with you, commoditize, as in the statement that Netscape was threatening or endeavoring to commoditize the operating system, what did you understand commoditize to mean?
That they were creating a product that would either reduce the value or eliminate demand for the Windows operating system if they continued to improve it and we didn't keep improving our product.
Did you have any other understanding of the term commoditize in that context?
Well, it was a word that was used to refer to Andreessen's comment.
Other than that, did you have any understanding of the meaning of the term commoditize in that context?
Other than those two things?
Yes.
No.
All right, let me show you next a document that has been marked as Exhibit 383. This purports to be a email from Mr. Moritz to you and others with charts attached to it. First, have you seen this email before?
I think Mr. Hauk showed it to me.
You may be right in a sense, Mr. Gates, in the sense that I think that your counsel has produced to us various versions of documents. I do not believe that this particular version, which was produced to us stapled this way, was shown to you by Mr. Hauk.
When you asked me whether I'd ever seen the email before, I wasn't referring to the way it was stapled.
Well, this happens to be have various charts attached to it. Have you ever seen this email with these charts attached to it?
Can I look back through the old exhibits?
What I'd like, yes, you can. You can do whatever you want to answer the question. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to get your answer to this question with respect to Exhibit 383. If you need to look back at the other exhibit to answer this question, then you can do whatever you need to answer the question.
Well, I certainly do. You've asked me if I've ever seen something before, and I'm thinking maybe a previous exhibit had some or part of this, and therefore, to answer your question, I need to look at the exhibits to see if that's the case or not.
Let me see if I can move things along. Did you receive this email in or about January 1997? This email being a message from Paul Moritz to you and others, dated January 5, 1997.
I don't remember receiving it, but I don't have any reason to doubt that it was sent.
Did you see this email at any time prior to the commencement of your deposition last week?
I don't remember seeing it.
The subject of this email is, quote, overview slides for Bill Gates' NC and Java session with 14 pluses on Monday. Do you see that?
Yes.
And I think you identify the 14 pluses as some group of executives, is that correct?
No.
What is the 14 pluses?
It's people above a certain level, primarily engineers. Also executives, but mostly engineers,
But it's all the people in the company above a certain level, the 14 level.
which are mostly engineers and not executives.
How many people are there in the 14 pluses group?
It's a good question. I think around 200 to 300.
And these would be the people in the 200 or 300 top rated jobs in the company? Is that correct?
If top means the best compensation, yes.
Okay. Now, do you recall the slides that are attached to this email?
I remember when I testified earlier, seeing these and saying that I was pretty sure that I never presented these slides.
Do you recall whether someone else presented these slides in January of 1997?
I'm not sure. I remember looking at the slides and thinking, probably not.
Let me ask you to look at the third page of the exhibit, which is headed Key Platform Challenge. It is page 2 of the charts and page 3 of Exhibit 383, in which it says NC and Java are platform challenges. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Did you believe in January of 1997 that Java was a platform challenge?
Not Java the language, but some of the Java runtime APIs that were being promoted to ISVs in the way that Sun and others were talking about enhancing them were platform challenges.
When reference is made here to Java, do you understand that to refer to what you refer to as Java runtime APIs?
I'm not sure.
Are you aware of people asserting that Java runtime APIs were a platform challenge in or about January of 1997?
I just told you that we looked at what was going on in terms of the plans of Sun and other people with Java runtime APIs as being a platform challenge.
Are you aware of any other platform challenge represented by Java other than Java runtime APIs?
No.
So would it be fair to say that you believe that when reference is made here to Java, the reference means Java runtime APIs, since it asserts here that Java is a platform challenge?
It's the best way to make sense of a document that I hadn't seen until my deposition, as far as I know.
Okay. Let me show you a document that has been marked as Exhibit 397. This purports to be a message to you and others from Brad Chase, dated March 13, 1997. Did you receive this message in or about March of 1997?
I don't remember receiving it. In fact, it's very strange that the email names aren't expanded, but I probably received it.
Let me go down to the third paragraph of the document. And the fifth sentence that says, quote, "Browser share needs to remain a key priority for our field and marketing efforts," close quote. Do you see that?
In the third paragraph?
Yes.
Okay, the third sentence, the third paragraph, yeah.
Were you told in or about March of 1997 that people within Microsoft believed that browser share needed to remain a key priority for your field and marketing efforts?
I don't remember being told that, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear that people were saying that.
Immediately before that sentence, there's a statement that Microsoft needs to continue its jihad next year. Do you see that?
No.
The sentence that says browser share needs to remain a key priority for our field and marketing efforts, the sentence right before that says we need to continue our jihad next year. That's the way it ends. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Now, I see it doesn't say Microsoft.
Well, when it says we there, do you understand that means something other than Microsoft, sir?
It could mean Brad Chase's group.
Well, this is a message from Brad Chase to you, Brad Silverberg, Paul Moritz, and Steve Ballmer, correct?
And as I say, it's strange. If this was a normal piece of email, it wouldn't print like this. I'm not aware of any way, maybe there is some way, that email ends up looking like this when you print it out.
I wasn't the one that was asserting it was an email. I don't know whether it's an email or whether it's a memo or what it is. All I know is that it was produced to us by Microsoft. The first line of it says, to, and the first name there is Brad S.I. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Does that refer to Brad Silverberg?
Usually you can use that shorthand in typing in someone's name. But when you print out email, it doesn't come out that way.
Do you believe that the reference here to Brad S.I. is a reference to Brad Silverberg, sir?
Yes.
Okay. The next addressee is Paul M.A. Do you believe that that is Paul Moritz?
Yes.
The next addressee is Steve B. Do you believe that that is Steve Ballmer?
Yes.
The next addressee is Bill G. And do you believe that that is yourself?
Yes.
And it says it's from Brad C. And do you believe that is Brad Chase?
Yes.
Now, when Brad Chase writes to you and the others, we need to continue our jihad next year, do you understand that he is referring to Microsoft when he uses the word we?
No.
What do you think he means when he uses the word we?
I'm not sure.
Do you know what he means by jihad?
Yeah, I think he's referring to our vigorous efforts to make a superior product and to market that product.
Now, what he says in the next sentence is, browser share needs to remain a key priority for our field and marketing efforts. Is that correct?
Yes.
The field and marketing efforts were not involved in product design or making an improved browser, were they, sir?
No.
Let me show you next a document that has been marked as Exhibit 384.
That's the last one.
No, that goes down there. I gave them 2 copies.
Okay. That's yours. Which number is this now?
384. I want you to look at the second message that is on this exhibit in the middle of the first page. Is a message from Steven Sinofsky. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And it is dated June 10, 1994. There is one name that it's hard to read on the copy that we were produced, but I don't believe that you were shown as receiving a copy of this exhibit, at least back in 1994. Have you seen this message before, sir?
Not before this lawsuit.
When did you first see it?
I think sometime during the course of the lawsuit.
That is sometime in the last 6 months.
That's right.
Have you discussed this with anyone in Microsoft other than your counsel?
Yeah, I think I had a short conversation with Mitch Matthews on the general topic, not
What-
on this specific message.
What was the general topic that you referred to?
The history of our decision to put browsing functionality into Windows.
There is a reference here to Chicago, and is that a reference to Windows?
It's a code name that was used for what became Windows 95.
The third paragraph of this email says, quote, "We do not currently plan on any other client software, especially something like Mosaic or Cello." Do you see that?
I see it.
You've identified Mosaic as a browser, correct, sir?
Yes?
Do you know what Cello is?
No.
Were you informed in or about June of 1994 that people within Microsoft did not currently plan on including something like Mosaic or Cello in Windows 95?
Quite the opposite.
So it's your testimony that this is just not accurate? Is that what you're saying?
Objection.
What are you referring to?
Well, I'm referring to this document. And what this document says is, quote, "We do not currently plan on any other client software, especially something like Mosaic or Cello." And you understand this to mean that they're not currently planning on including something like Mosaic or Cello in Chicago, correct, sir?
Well, I guess I'd read the whole email message if I was really interested, and I've gone ahead and done that. So you're asking, you're trying to take that sentence just out by itself, or you're trying to get me to talk about what the email itself is saying?
What I'm trying to do is to get you to tell me whether, as you understand it, Mr. Sinofsky is writing here on June 10, 1994, that, at least insofar as he is concerned, there is not a plan to include something like Mosaic or Cello in Chicago. Is that what he's saying here?
No.
That's not what he's saying. Let's go to the previous paragraph. He says, "I think it is really important that we stick to the basic facts of the situation and not overcommit Chicago or Microsoft in any way. The Chicago message is all the plumbing you need to connect to the internet, which translates to TCP/IP stacks, SLIP and PPP, and the basic FTP and Telnet clients. Our built-in client and our NT server will also support internet protocols such as SMTP and MIME." He then continues in the very next sentence, "We do not currently plan on any other client software, especially something like Mosaic and Cello." Are any of the things that Mr. Sinofsky indicates here that are going to be included in Chicago software that you would consider to be browser software?
The email I'm looking at talks about the Chicago message, and this is he seems to be talking about what we're saying externally about the Chicago project. This email doesn't include anyone who's involved in deciding what's in Chicago, and so he's talking about the Chicago message here.
Mr. Gates, my question is whether any of the software that Mr. Sinofsky identifies here as being included in Chicago is software that you consider to be browser software.
Where do you see the phrase "included in Chicago"?
Well, sir, when he says the Chicago message is all the plumbing you need to connect to the internet, which translates to TCP, IP stacks, SLIP, and PPP, and the basic FTP and Telnet clients, our built-in mail client and our NT server will also support internet protocols such as SMTP and MIME. When he says those things, do you believe that he's saying that those are going to be included in Chicago?
No, he's saying the Chicago message is.
So what you're saying is that when he says the Chicago message is that, he doesn't mean that you're going to include in Chicago what he then lists? Is that what you're saying?
Saying that's the Chicago message may imply that.
Yes, but that's what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is whether you read this document as saying that TCP IP stacks, SLIP, and PPP, and the basic FTP and Telnet clients are going to be included in Chicago. Do you read it that way?
No.
Okay. And when he says our built-in mail client and our NT server will also support internet protocols such as SMTP and MIME, do you believe that he's saying that your built-in mail client and your NT server are going to come out with Chicago?
Certainly not.
Okay. And when he says, we do not currently plan on any other client software, especially something like Mosaic or Cello, and then in the next sentence says, Chicago is investigating possibilities, but nothing at all is public, and DRG should not be talking to anyone with the thought of including them in the box or resource kit. That is purely for Chicago NT to deal with, though any interesting packages should of course be brought to everyone's attention. Our plans for offering any sort of connection to the internet are also highly confidential and merely speculative. Do you think when he talks about Mosaic and Cello, he's talking about something for Chicago?
He's talking about the Chicago message. The definition of what would and wouldn't be in Chicago wasn't finally known until Chicago shipped. Certainly at this time, we'd made the decision to do our best to include the browsing functionality if we could. We weren't saying that as part of the Chicago message.
Mr. Gates, you've testified that you never saw this until the last 6 months, correct?
That's right.
Who showed you this?
I'm not sure. I think maybe the government cited it. I'm not sure.
Well, who showed it to you?
I'm not sure anyone